It's the week leading up to 3.7, and today I'm here with the full 3.7 updated Cipher guide, taking you over everything you do need to know for Cipher, including her kit and eidolons, best icons, best relic sets and ornaments, the relic sets you want to run, and team building ideas. I plan on having a full build guide for every single 3.7 new and returning character. The entire first half is already covered, so if you're interested in Cyrene, Hyacine, Castrus, or Tribi, they are already out. There's already one for Finon, you are now watching Cipher, and soon the final one for Mide will be out as well tomorrow. Click on my link in the description right now to join me for a journey in Raid Shadow Legends. It supports my channel a lot and gives you a legendary start in the game with Elenaro, as well as 3 awesome epic champs. Don't waste any time and click on the link right away, I appreciate you guys. So Cipher is a Quantum Nihility character whose basic attack deals quantum damage based off her attack to a designated enemy. Her skill will first weaken the enemies that are hit. Weaken has a 120% base chance to decrease their damage dealt by 10%, and then will increase Cipher's attack by 30% for 2 turns. The attack itself deals quantum damage based off 200% of Cipher's attack to the primary target and 100% of Cipher's attack to adjacent targets. Her ultimate deals quantum damage equal to 120% of her attack to a designated enemy, and then will deal 25% of the current tally as true damage from the talent that you kept to one designated enemy. Moreover, will deal quantum damage equal to 40% of her attack alongside true damage equal to 75% of the current tally kept by the talent to a designated enemy and the adjacent targets. The true damage is distributed evenly among all targets that are hit by this ability. Her talent will automatically mark the enemy with the highest max HP as Patron when entering battle. If you use your skill or ultimate on a primary target, that primary target will become Patron. Patron is only activated on one enemy at a time. Anytime Patron is attacked by anyone on your team, Cipher will launch a follow-up attack against the Patron enemy, dealing quantum damage equal to 150% of her attack that triggers 1 time per turn. The trigger count will reset at the start of Cipher's turn. Cipher will tally 12% of the non-true damage dealt by ally targets to Patron. Overflow damage will not be tallied, and after using ultimate, it will clear the tally. Cipher's technique allows her to gain a blessing in the overworld for 15 seconds, and during that time she will be undetectable by enemies and her movement speed will be increased by 50%. If you approach an enemy in one of the universe modes, you can immediately obtain a random consumable, and you can gain consumables 50 times on each Earth day. When you enter battle with the blessing active, you deal quantum damage based off 100% of her attack to all enemies, and the tallied amount Cipher gains from this instance of attack is increased by 200%. For her bonus traces, her A2 will increase her crit rate by 25%/50% and also increase the gain tally by 50%/100% for how much speed you do have. For the 25% crit rate and the 50% increased tally gain, it is 140 speed, and for 50% crit rate and 100% tally gain, it is 170 speed requirement. Her A4 will allow Cipher to tally the 8% of non-true damage dealt to enemy targets that are not Patron, and overflow damage is still not tallied. And her A6 increases crit damage dealt by her follow-up attack by 100%. When Cipher is on the battlefield, damage received by all enemy targets increases by 40%. For her eidolons, her E1 will increase Cipher's tally of damage to 150% of the original value, and launching a follow-up attack will give Cipher an 80% increase to attack for 2 turns. Her E2, for when Cipher hits an enemy, there will be a 120% base chance to increase the damage it receives by 30% for 2 turns. Her E4 lets Cipher deal additional quantum damage equal to 50% of her attack when the Patron is hit by an ally target. And her E6 increases her follow-up attack damage by 350%. During the tally, an additional 16% of non-overflow damage dealt by this attack is tallied, and when you clear the tally from her ultimate, 20% of the cleared tally will be returned to you. For Lightcone options, unfortunately Cipher is still not working with too many options that are really good for her, but of course her best one is going to be her own signature Lightcone, providing an 18% increase to the wearer's speed. After the wearer uses an attack, there's a 120% base chance to inflict Bamboozle state on every enemy target. While under the Bamboozle state, enemy targets have their defense decreased by 16% for 2 turns. If the wearer's speed is equal to or higher than 170, there is a 120% base chance to inflict the theft state on every enemy target. While under the theft state, enemy targets have their defense decreased by 8% for 2 turns. When bamboozled or theft is repeatedly inflicted, only the most recently inflicted instance takes effect. The speed percentage buff is really good, especially on Cipher, who has a very high base speed. If you don't know, speed percentage buffs are only affected on the wearer's base speed, so because she has a high base speed, she gets a bigger effect as opposed to someone that may have like 95 base speed. And this also gets you closer to our 170 speed, and this also gets you closer to the 170 speed requirement that both this Lightcone has, and also Cipher's base kit has. You also get a debuff to make enemies take a 16% defense shred, so that's great for her debuffer role, as she already does make enemies take more damage by existing, as Cipher's whole role is to be a sub DPS while also being a debuffer. To top it all off, you can bring that 16% up to a total of 24% defense shred by having 170 speed by inflicting another debuff, in this case being Theft State. So having both Bamboozle and Theft up gives you a total of 24% defense shred, which is really good, especially paired with what her base kit can do. The requirement for Theft is 170 speed, which shouldn't be a problem on Cipher anyways, because you need to get 170 speed to make full use of her A2. So making full use of her base kit also lets you get full use of this Lightcone, making it overall her still far and none best option. Another option you can also kind of use is actually Silverwolf's signature option. 24% effect hit rate for the wearer. When the wearer deals damage to an enemy that has currently 3 or more debuffs, increases the wearer's crit rate by 12%. After wearer uses basic attack, skill, or ultimate, there's a 100% base chance to implant Aether Code on a random hit enemy target that does not yet have it, and targets with Aether Code receive 12% increased damage for 1 turn. Effect hit rate can actually be pretty solid on Cipher. It's not something that's super mandatory, and it's also something for mainly of her Lightcone, because her actual base kit has good enough base chances anyways. But with her signature Lightcone, you only need around 39% to actually get it, and with this Lightcone, you could also get a benefit from effect hit rate, as it's 100% base chance as opposed to 120%, which her base kit has for the weekend and then her actual Lightcone has. Because of that, the effect hit rate stat isn't actually wasted. The only thing is this Lightcone makes it harder to get to her higher speed thresholds, but it does also make Cipher do more damage by providing 12% crit rate when dealing damage to an enemy that has 3 or more debuffs. Cipher has a lot of crit rate access, having a whopping 50% in her base kit plus the 5%, so 55%. So there's a chance that this might make you overcap, but in the cases it doesn't, it becomes that much more valuable. And also provides an additional debuff being Aether Code to make enemies take more damage, which is good for Cipher and also your entire team. So similarly, this Lightcone does provide good things for Cipher herself, while also amping her actual debuffer role, making it a usable option. Another usable option is the Pearl's Lightcone, which for when the wearer hits an enemy and if they are not ensnared, there's a 60% base chance to ensnare the enemy target. Ensnared enemies have a 12% defense shred, and at S5 it's 100% base chance with 16% shred. So it's just a significantly weaker version of her Lightcone, as it provides less defense shred even at S5. It provides as much as the Bamboozle State alone, doesn't provide any speed, and you also would need more effect hit rate to get a guaranteed chance to always have it, as once again it's 100% base chance as opposed to 120%. This Lightcone is very much usable on her, but it will take more speed rolls as you're not getting a speed buff from this, and a bit more effect hit rate to guarantee the buffs. Relic options actually do vary depending on what you want to do. If you're someone, let's say, that doesn't really care about her own personal damage and or maybe you don't have your signature Lightcone, you can actually start off by doing a 2-piece speed, 2-piece speed. So 2-piece Warrior Goddess with 2-piece Relieved Ordeal or Hacker Space, that would give you up to a 12% speed increase that will help you get to 170 speed or higher easier. So again, if you're struggling to actually reach that 170 goal, or maybe you can get it with it and you want to get more and you do not care about Cipher's personal damage, then you could opt to do that, because something to note about Cipher is her biggest hit comes from her ultimate and the tally. That is done by your entire team as a whole. Cipher's damage, in my opinion, is worth more focusing on, because it can definitely add up to a relatively good buff, especially with AoE buffers on the team. And Cipher herself can also build tally for herself as well. But again, if you really just care about her final nuke, you just want her to be as fast as possible to maybe generate you skill points, just to act enough to add debuffs for someone like Acheron, then 2-piece speed and 2-piece speed would be the way you would go. Now, if you're able to reach 170 speed with a 4-piece and you want to focus more on damage, Pioneer is going to be the one you want to use. 2-piece increases damage dealt to enemies with debuffs by 12%. 4-piece increases crit rate by 4%. The wearer deals 8%/12% increased crit damage to enemies with at least 2/3 debuffs. After the wearer inflicts a debuff on enemy targets, the aforementioned effects increase by 100% for 1 turn. Cipher existing makes everyone take more damage, so it's a free 12% increased damage dealt to any enemy. 4% crit rate helps you get closer to 100% crit rate, assuming you're not already overcapped. And now anytime you crit, dealing damage to enemies with debuffs will make them take more damage. Usually every Lightcone you have on her is going to give a debuff as well, so that can help you get up to 2 or maybe even 3 by herself. And she does inflict debuffs, so you are able to get the aforementioned effects increase. So this set is going to be the best for her own personal damage. Another one would be running 4-piece of Genius. 2-piece gives 10% quantum damage, 4-piece gives 10% defense ignore when dealing damage to an enemy, and an additional 10% defense ignore when dealing damage to an enemy with quantum weakness. 2-piece will increase her sub DPS capabilities overall, as it does give 10% quantum damage, damage, and she's quantum, so she will get a benefit from that. 4-piece is free 10% defense ignore. When you pair this with her light cone, when you pair this with other forms of defense shred/ignore, it becomes a lot stronger. And if they have quantum weakness, that's an extra 10%, making it that much stronger. The higher the value of defense shred/ignore, closer to 100%, is going to make it a lot better. And it's not like other things where you might have diminishing returns. You really just get stronger and stronger until you reach 100%, where thereafter it is useless. So if you go into battle with quantum weakness, or you are taking her on a team with someone that can implant quantum weakness, that can make the 4-piece that much stronger, and even at base with 10%, it is good, especially if you do have her signature light cone. For 2-piece when it comes to actual damage sets, if you want to focus on our damage, again, you can hit 170 speed without the speed sets. Then you can do 2-piece quantum sets, so Genius or Poet, and do 2-piece debuff or 2-piece one of the attack percent increasing sets, such as Hero, Prisoner, Musketeers, and also Wind Soaring. Or you could also do 2-piece one of the crit sets, Scholar or World Remaking if you do need crit rate, and Wave Shudder if you need crit damage. For ornaments, it also depends if you want to focus more on her sub DPS capability or if you just want to focus on her fully supportive wise. If you want to focus on her as a full support, then running any of the supportive sets will work. Lushaka is going to be the primary one with 5% energy regen rate and 12% attack for the character positioned first in the team lineup. So 5% energy regen rate is not the greatest on her, since the main playstyle with Cipher is holding your ultimate until you have enough tally to usually kill or maybe kill a wave by itself. So you usually only get about one ultimate throughout the entire battle. So the energy regen is not like super game changing as opposed to someone else, but it can help, especially in battles where they may drain your energy. Or if it's a super long battle, such as the Kings and Check boss, where you might need to use your ultimate 1 or 2 times. In those cases, it can help. And then 12% attack for your main hyper carry is nice. You can also run Penacony when paired with another quantum DPS. Also 5% energy regen rate and 10% damage for all other allies that are the same type as the wearer, so they would have to be quantum in this case, otherwise it is useless. I, in particular, don't really recommend running Keel or Aegis anymore just because they are relatively outdated. And the effect res on Cipher can be useful, but the 30% effect res can be a bit annoying as well, especially since you're not focusing on it. And she's not a support, she doesn't give herself effect res by any means. And then for Aegis, it gives everyone attack while also giving Cipher some max HP, which is better for some survivability. So this one is better than Keel, honestly, since the 8% attack buff also does affect her. So it is usable, but it is more outdated, and usually Penacony and especially the shotgun would be the way to go. Now on a team where you want to, if you're someone that wants to focus on our damage, Glamoth is going to be the best. 12% attack and practically a free 18% damage for any time you have a well-built Cipher. Don't really need to mention the requirements, as you're always going to want over 170 speed, and the requirement is 160 speed, so it's really just a free 12% increase to attack and 18% damage. That's going to be good for really every source of damage she does do. The main stats you want to run are as follows. The body actually does depend. If you are not running her on a signature option, let's say you're running something like Pearl specifically, which is going to be the second most common besides your signature, in that case you're going to need a lot more effect hit rate as opposed to someone that has a signature, and the requirement for Pearls is around 67%. So that's why running an effect hit rate body, especially if you have no rolls for effect hit rate, is going to be what you do. Now if you have her actual signature light cone and for her skill, since they both have 120% base chance, you need about 39% effect hit rate, which is very much doable with substats, especially because she also gives herself 10% effect hit rate through her traces. So in that case, you would be running crit damage. So if you're not really running a light cone that has the high base chance to inflict a debuff, so again, something like her signature with 120%, and also for a skill, in that case, you would run effect hit rate unless you have really good effect hit rate rolls on your pieces, and can get around the 67% range to guarantee every debuff to land. And then for anyone else, the best for her damage is going to be crit damage. For the feat, you want to run speed. For the orb, you can run quantum damage or attack percent. Quantum damage is a little better, but if you have a good attack percent orb, feel free to run it. And for the link rope, you want attack percent. For the substats, first you want to prioritize 170 speed to activate the full effect of her trace. If you're running Glamoth, you're going to need 160 speed anyway, so byproduct get to 170 to get that effect as well. And 170 speed should just be a requirement, especially if you have her signature light cone, which also needs 170 speed. So nonetheless, 170 speed is going to be your far and none biggest requirement. You can aim to get higher than that, such as maybe you want to reach 200 speed to get 3 turns within the first MLC cycle. That depends on you, but 170 speed at the bare minimum is going to be a priority. And then past the speed, it's going to be effect hit rate if you do need so. Again, running her signature needs you around 39%. Pearl's Icon or anything with around the same effect hit rate is going to need around 67. So if you're running an effect hit rate body and you still don't have enough, or you want to run a crit damage body and you want to get it through rolls, you will need to prioritize that. So get it to 67 if you're not running signature, or 39% for signature. And then past that would be crit rate, crit damage, and attack percent. Crit rate, getting it to as close as 100% as possible is going to be ideal as usual, since you would like to crit every single hit. So if you care any form about her damage, it's going to be what you want to do. And she gives herself 50% and at base has 55% anyways. If you're running Pioneer, that's 59% at base. So it's definitely possible to get to 100% a lot easier as opposed to other characters. Crit damage, really just get as much as you can. Getting around 140% is going to be great. If you can get it higher than that, that's going to be really good. And for attack percent, just getting it around 24 to 2500 is going to be great. And of course, if you can get it higher than that, that's going to be nice. You can also get some rolls for survivability such as HP, defense, and effect res. They're not completely wasted rolls, especially in sustainless runs where you do run Cipher a lot for sustainless runs. And she is quite squishy, so getting HP, defense, and effect res rolls can definitely help. HP and defense obviously makes it to where she's tankier, and then effect res makes it to where she might resist ACC. So they aren't complete wasted rolls, but obviously you don't want to put all priority into them. Now for team building. So Cipher is a debuffer that has relatively universal debuffs, and also if you have a signature Lightcone or you're running Pearls is also a relatively universal Lightcone option. You really can put her as a sub DPS anywhere, to be honest. She of course works on some teams like Acheron and Fascia better than other teams, but again, you can really put her anywhere as her debuffs are universally good. The way to make her shine better is to get your DPS to do more damage, and she helps with that. So for an example, the new follow-up team would look something like this. It would be Cipher herself, and then you would run Fascia for the main DPS, obviously. The sustain, which would usually, in this case, always go to Aventurine as well, or maybe even Hyacinth if you have her, because she works really good on this team as well. And if you don't have Aventurine, you could sub out for whoever you want. And then last thought usually would always go to Robin, and as Robin is an AoE buffer, she's also buffing Cypher's damage at the same time. So this is one of the teams she excels at. Another team she excels at is the Acheron team, which of course would change if you have E2 or not Acheron. So an E2 Acheron team would be one Nahodi, so in this case would be Cipher, who actually is her best Nahodi at E2. And then it would obviously depend if you're doing sustainless or not as well. So usually in this case you would throw on a Action Advancer, a -1 speed setup with Sunday or Bronya is going to be really good as well. Or a 160 speed with a base speed Acheron, and you're running someone like Sparkle can also work too. Sparkle has a bit of AoE buffs, especially her Quantum Trace, so you can actually buff Cipher a little bit as well. And then last thought would go to your Sustain if you're doing Sustain, or another support if you're doing Sustainless. So if you are doing Sustain, you can throw out Aventurine, you can throw out Hyacinth, and so on. And if you're doing Sustainless, an E1 Tribi or any AoE buffer can be really good, so even someone like Ruan May. But in my case, I'll put Tribi as an example. And if you're E0 doing a double Nihility setup, then you would just sub out someone like Sparkle here for the other Nihility. In this case, it would be Xiaochu, so it would look like this. And then your last thought would go to your Sustain, as in these teams, especially with the E0 Acheron, you would usually need a Sustain. So in my case, I'll just put Aventurine, but again, just put whoever you do have. Again, there's so many team combinations, I can't get through them all, but those are like the two prime examples. You can use her with a Noxa for a team like this when it comes to Sustainless, so it could look something like this. This is actually a really good sustainless setup. If you want to sustain, you would have to sub out Cerebro or Sunday as an example here for your sustain. Usually it would be Cerebro here because the extra shots are good, but Sunday Action Advance is very important. You can honestly use her on an Evernight team as well. She doesn't have a Memo Sprite, but her debuffs are also good for Evernight's damage, so you can do Cipher herself, RMC, Evernight, and then the last slot would usually go to Hyacinth, but in my case, I don't have Hyacinth, so I'm just going to put Tribi for a sustainless team that I use a lot. This is actually a very common team that I like using, and I like using during testing of Evernight as well. Again, there's just so many options. She's a really good universal sub DPS that will just get better the stronger your DPS are, and the more damage you're doing will increase her value. And that is the full updated 3.7 Cipher guide. I do hope you found this video helpful. If you did, drop a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn the button for future videos like this, along with all the types of style content. Check the description to join the Discord and also my Arc Guides channel. Be sure to click on the Raid Shadow Legends link to start strong. It also helps support the channel a lot, so feel free to give it a try if you are interested, and I'll see you later. Peace out.